Eunhee, the Little Mother. In the mountains of Korea, where morning mist dances between ancient pines, there once lived a girl whose heart was bigger than her small frame could contain. Her name was Eun-hee, and this is her story, a story of love that blooms even in the darkest of winters. The year was 1952. The world had seen too much fire, too much loss. But in our little mountain village, 12-year-old Eun-hee was about to learn that sometimes the smallest shoulders must carry the heaviest burdens. Act 1. The Weight of Goodbye. Picture, if you will, a small girl with eyes too wise for her years. Eun-hee sat on the wooden steps of her grandmother's house, watching the morning sun paint the mountains gold. Her father's absence was a silent ache. He had left for a war that never brought him home. Her mother had found a new life in the distant city, with new promises and a new family. "Grandma, when will Mama come back?" Eun-hee would ask each morning, her voice small as a sparrow's song. Her grandmother, weathered hands gentle on the child's head, would answer softly, "Child, some birds must fly to survive. We cannot ask them to stay when their wings are restless." But Eun-hee didn't understand birds or wings. She only understood the empty space at the dinner table and the way her little brother Min-ho still called for their mother in his sleep. Then one autumn day, like a miracle wrapped in heartbreak, their mother returned. Eun-hee ran down the mountain path, her bare feet flying over stones and roots. "Mama, Mama," she cried, her heart bursting with joy. But when she reached her mother's arms, she felt something different, a hesitation, a goodbye hidden in the embrace. Her mother knelt down, tears streaming down her face. "Eun-hee, my brave girl, I cannot take you with me. Your stepfather, he says there's no room, but you're strong. Take care of the little ones for me." Eun-hee looked into her mother's eyes, seeing the pain there, the impossible choice. Something shifted inside her chest, not breaking, but hardening into something stronger. "I understand, Mama. I'll be their big sister. I promise." And just like that, a 12-year-old girl became a mother, not by choice, but by love, not by age, but by necessity. Act 2. When the Sky Burned. Winter arrived early that year, but it wasn't snow that fell from the sky, it was fire. The war had found our little mountain village. The earth shook. Windows rattled like frightened teeth. In the distance, orange flames licked the night sky where the neighboring village used to be. Grandmother woke the children in the middle of the night, her voice urgent but calm. "We must go now," she whispered. But even as she spoke, her breath came in short gasps. The long walk ahead would be too much for her aging heart. Eun-hee understood without words. She gathered Min-ho and the 3 other children who had found their way to grandmother's house, little orphans with nowhere else to go. "Min-ho, hold my hand. Everyone, stay close. We're going on an adventure," she said, trying to make her voice bright and brave. But it wasn't an adventure. It was survival. Picture the Exodus, hundreds of people flowing down the mountain like a river of sorrow, old men carrying bundles bigger than themselves, mothers with babies strapped to their backs, children crying for toys they'd never see again. And there was Eun-hee leading her small group of children, her brother Min-ho, little orphaned Sukja, and 3 other children whose families had been scattered by the wind of war. At 12 years old, she had become their whole world. Days blended into nights on the refugee road. Food became scarce. A stranger barked at them one evening. "Girl, that baby won't stop crying. Can't you do something?" Eun-hee looked at the frightened faces around her, then began to sing, her voice soft but clear in the cold night air. "Sleep, little star, in the mountain's embrace. Dream of tomorrow, a safer place. Though the road is long and the night is cold, my love will keep you strong and bold." And somehow, miraculously, the crying stopped, not just from one baby, but from all the children. In Eun-hee's voice they found what they had lost, the comfort of home. But the road grew harder, the winter bit deep into their bones. Some nights, Eun-hee would give her portion of rice to the smaller children and tell them she wasn't hungry, even as her own stomach ached with emptiness. "Nuna, sister, are we going to die?" Min-ho asked one particularly cold night, his lips blue with cold. Eun-hee pulled him close, her voice fierce and protective. "No. Do you know why? Because we have each other. As long as we're together, we can survive anything." And she believed it. She had to. Act 3. The Promise That Broke. Weeks into their journey, fate played its cruelest trick yet. At a refugee camp near Seoul, Eun-hee saw a familiar figure across the crowded courtyard. "Mama," she breathed, her heart suddenly flying faster than her feet. She ran, leaving the other children for just a moment, hope blooming in her chest like a flower after rain. Surely now, surely her mother would take them in. Surely the nightmare was over. But her mother stood there with her new husband, her new baby, her new life, and in her eyes, Eun-hee saw the truth she had been too young to understand before. "Eun-hee, my dear child," her mother stammered, her voice thick with guilt and pain. I hoped you would be safe in the village. I never imagined, but now you see there's no space." The words hung in the air like broken glass. Eun-hee felt something inside her chest crack, not her heart, for that was too strong, but her childhood. The last piece of it fell away right there in that muddy refugee camp. "I understand, Mama. We'll be fine. We have each other," she said, her voice carrying a dignity that belonged to someone 3 times her age. Her mother reached out desperately. "But you're just a child yourself." Eun-hee stepped back, straightening her small shoulders. "No, Mama, not anymore." And as her mother walked away, this time forever, Eun-hee felt the weight of her promise settle on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. But she wore it without complaint, because love is not a burden when you choose to carry it. That night, as the other children slept huddled around her, Eun-hee made a vow to the stars. "I will not let you suffer alone. I will be your family, your home, your hope." The stars, distant and cold, seemed to twinkle back in understanding. Act 4. Songs in the Darkness. The war ended, but peace was still a stranger to our little family. They found shelter in an abandoned schoolhouse, 4 walls and a roof with more holes than stars in the sky. Winter came again, hungrier than before. 5 children and one 12-year-old mother, sharing one torn blanket, eating watery soup made from tree bark and hope. Some nights were so cold that Eun-hee could see her breath even inside their shelter, and it was on the coldest night of all that little Sukja began to cry. I want to go home. I want my mama, she sobbed, her small body shaking with more than just cold. Soon all the children were crying, for parents they'd lost, for warm beds they'd never sleep in again, for the simple comfort of feeling safe. Eun-hee watched them, her own heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. She had no magic words to bring back their parents, no hidden store of food to fill their bellies, no power to end their suffering, but she had something else. She began to sing, her voice gentle as a mother's touch. Beneath the moon so bright and high, our little house still stands. Don't cry. Though far we've traveled, far we've roamed, together we will find our home. The mountains call, the valleys sing, of better days that peace will bring. So close your eyes and dream tonight of morning sun and warm sunlight. One by one the children's sobs turned to sniffles, then to silence, then to soft humming along with Eun-hee's voice. In that broken schoolhouse, surrounded by the wreckage of war, something beautiful happened. They became a family, not by blood, but by choice, not by luck, but by love. Nuna, will you always sing to us? Minho asked sleepily. Eun-hee smoothed his hair, her voice filled with infinite tenderness. Always, little brother, always. Act 5. The Light That Grows. Spring came eventually, as spring always does, carrying with it the promise of new beginnings. Eun-hee, now 13 but feeling 30, began to dream of more than just survival. She found scraps of paper and used charcoal from their fire to practice writing. Every night after the children slept, she would trace letters by moonlight, teaching herself the words she'd never learned in school. A curious villager found her one evening, bent over her makeshift lessons. "Girl, what are you doing?" Eun-hee looked up, her eyes bright with determination. "Learning. If I can read, I can teach them. If I can write, I can tell our story." The village began to notice this extraordinary girl who had turned tragedy into tenderness, loss into love. They brought small gifts, a potato here, a worn blanket there, sometimes just a kind word. But the greatest gift came from an unexpected source. The old schoolmaster, returned from the war with one arm and a heart full of hope, found them in his ruined classroom one morning. "What's this?" "Squatters in my school," he called out, though his voice held more curiosity than anger. Eun-hee stood tall, protective as always. "Sir, we had nowhere else to go, but we'll leave if you want." The old man looked around at the children, clean despite their poverty, well-behaved despite their circumstances, and at Eun-hee, so young but carrying herself with such quiet strength. He chuckled, a sound like autumn leaves. "Leave? Child, you've brought this old building back to life. These walls have heard children's voices again because of you. Stay, and let me teach you properly." And so began a new chapter. Eun-hee learned to read and write not just Korean, but mathematics, history, even a little English. And every evening she passed on everything she'd learned to her little family, their voices filling the old schoolhouse with the sound of hope. Epilogue. The Heart That Never Forgot. Years passed. Eun-hee grew into a young woman, then an adult, then an elder. The children she'd raised grew up, found their own paths, started their own families, but they never forgot the girl who'd chosen love over fear, hope over despair. Min-ho became a doctor, dedicating his life to healing others as his sister had healed him. Little Sukja became a teacher, passing on the gift of learning that Eun-hee had given her. The other children scattered like seeds on the wind, but each carried within them the memory of a 12-year-old girl who'd sung them to sleep when the world was ending. Some called her a hero, but Eun-hee never saw herself that way. Even as an old woman, surrounded by the families of those she'd raised, she would say simply, "I didn't save them. We saved each other. That's what families do." In a world that often seems broken, where wars still rage and children still cry for parents who cannot come home, Eun-hee's story reminds us of this eternal truth. Love is not just what we feel, it's what we do. It's not just what we receive, it's what we give. And sometimes the smallest act of love can light up the darkest night, warm the coldest winter, and heal the deepest wound. Somewhere in the mountains of Korea, where morning mist still dances between ancient pines, the echo of a young girl's lullaby continues to remind us, as long as we have each other, we can survive anything. This is the story of Eun-hee, the little mother who taught us that the heart's capacity for love knows no limits, not of age, not of circumstance, not of loss. Her love lives on in every act of kindness, in every protective embrace, in every lullaby sung to chase away the darkness.